Did you know that you can create and automate the entire sales pipeline of your business under 30 minutes using HighLevel? So when we talk about sales pipeline, it is the backbone of each business. And believe it or not, every business has one, whether they have mapped it in a software or not. Because for every business, they always start at getting new leads and then try to make them their customers. And between that, there's different stages involved. So if you take a look at my screen here, I've mapped the sales pipeline of a chiropractic business, which I will be using as an example for this video. But of course, this could apply across any industry. So you can see the sales pipeline starts at new leads and it ends at closed package deal. This is an optional step that I've added, which I'll explain later on in the video. And between that, we have different steps. So for example, a chiropractic business can get leads from a form that they have either embedded on their website, or maybe they are getting leads from the Facebook ads. Then once they submit the form, we send out some sort of email or SMS acknowledging it and asking questions that how can we help them? And if they do respond back to that, and not everybody will, so that is why we need to filter some people out and then map them to the hot lead stage, so that way we can know these leads are most likely to convert because they're asking questions or they're responding back to our automated messages or emails. So for that, we have the hot lead stage. So at this stage, as part of our communication, we'll of course be sending them links to book their appointment for their initial consult. And if they end up doing that, they will be automatically moved to booked appointment. And of course, we need a calendar for this, which we can easily create in HighLevel. So once they book an appointment, they will be placed here. And then let's say they showed up, we send them an invoice. And if they pay that, we move them to closed or package deal. And of course, along this process, if somebody is disqualified or if they say stop or anything like that, we can move them to lost so we don't waste our energies on that lead. So this is a bird's eye view of how the sales pipeline looks like for a chiropractic business. It's going to be more or less the same. The terms could change, or maybe we can add or subtract a few stages in between, but the process is going to be the same. So I'm going to show you how to build this sales pipeline, and I'll also show you, as promised, how to automate this. All right, so I'm in my HighLevel account, and to build the pipeline, we have to head over to opportunities here, and then you will see that we don't have a pipeline created. So we'll just go ahead and click on create new pipeline, and it will prompt us to this screen right here. So let's go ahead and do that. We can call this sales pipeline, and then we're going to define the stage names here. So the first one we had was new leads, then we have hot leads, and then we have booked appointment, then we have showed up, no showed. Then for the next one, we can say bought a package. And then lastly, we have lost. We can make them visible in funnel chart and pie chart. This is something that we will discover later on. So based on this, I think we have pretty much mapped everything that we had here. So that is all we have to really do. We can go ahead and click on save, and we'll just take a few seconds to populate. And then if I head back to opportunities right here, we should be able to see all the stages that we had created or talked about in the start of the video, just like this. So once leads start populating here, we will be able to see them as opportunity cards, so we can easily track it. And it will also show the count of the leads based on whichever stage they are in. So you can see it is really easy to set up. It can give you a bird's eye view at any given time, so you can see how your business is doing, and it can also help you make very key decisions based on the stats. Now, like I mentioned in the video, I'm also going to show you how to automate this. So let's find a way how to do this using all tools inside of HighLevel. So for the new leads, we're always going to get new leads from a form that would be either embedded into your funnels or websites, or the leads could be coming through the Facebook lead forms. So if you want to create a form, you'll head over to sites here, and then under forms in builder, you can click on add form, and you can choose from templates to get started pretty quickly. And this will show you a bunch of options that you could choose from across multiple industries. I already have one created called $49 chiropractic adjustment, so I'm not going to go too much into it, but you can easily create a form here. Then if you refer back to our whiteboard here, you can see that I've written in green text the assets or the tools we will need to automate this. So for the new leads, we need the Go HighLevel form, which we just covered. And then for booking the appointments, we of course need a calendar in HighLevel. So you can go ahead and do that very easily. All you have to do is head over to calendars here, then go to calendar settings. And then here you can click on new calendar, choose the type of calendar like personal or round robin. For chiropractors, it is mostly going to be personal booking calendar. So you can go ahead and select that. give it a name, assign the staff members, give a URL, define the meeting durations as well as the availability. And if you want to accept payments within the calendar or not, you can also choose that. You can see I already have one, which is called chiropractic adjustments and initial screening. So we'll just go ahead and use that in this video. Then the last tools we need here are the product setup and invoice. So we do have to set these up, and you can do that in your account by heading over to payments, and then under invoices and estimates, you can head over to templates, and then here you can click on create new template. And this is where you can define your business information, type in all the information, attach a logo, and then also add a product. So for this, you of course need to connect your Stripe first, which you can do by heading over to integrations while staying in the payments tab. And here you can select Stripe, or if you want to embed more providers, you can do that. Stripe is the most popular option, and I already have that embedded. So that is what I'm using. And you can also see that I already have a template set up, which is called chiropractic care plan. So if I go ahead and open this, you can see that I already have the invoice template set up here. So I've got all the key details covered, like the logo, the business details, as well as the product here. So it's 1500, and this is what we will be sending to customers once they have showed up and agreed to a treatment care plan. All right, so we pretty much have it all figured out, and the only thing we need to do now is to create automations that will define how the leads flow through all the way from new leads to becoming a customer. So let's go ahead and do that now. I'm going to go to automations here inside of HighLevel. And then we're going to create a workflow, and I'm going to select a recipe because HighLevel offers great recipes you can choose from. These are basically automation or workflow templates that you can use and get started pretty quickly. So for the purpose of generating new leads, HighLevel has a signature fast 5 automation recipe that basically nurtures the lead pretty quickly in the first 5 minutes. Because as you know, if you reach the lead within the first 5 minutes of them taking action, the chances of them converting or answering back to us are much more higher. So keeping that in view, I'm going to select the recipe fast 5 here. So let's go ahead and select that. And once it opens up, you can see the template is pretty much set up, and you can customize the emails or the SMS going out to the leads. The key thing we need to do is to define a trigger that when should this automation take place, and that should happen once the form is submitted. So here I'm going to select the chiropractic adjustment form. So if somebody fills that out, we should create an opportunity. And once we choose that, the pipeline is already set since we only have one. So then we just have to make sure that we add them to the correct stage, which is new leads. And for the opportunity name, I'm going to pass the contact full name. And then for the opportunity source, we could say something like chiropractic business or something along those lines. I'm going to go ahead and click on save. Now let's go back and create the second workflow, which is going to be for hot leads. So I'm going to start this one from scratch and call this hot leads. And for this automation, we're going to set the trigger to contact replied. So if I search for reply, you can see customer replied trigger here. And then we have to define a filter, otherwise it will just happen on every contact reply. So we want to make sure that we only trigger this if the lead replied to the fast 5, the first automation that went out. For example, if they replied to an email that we sent out, or maybe an SMS that went out. So let's go ahead and save this. And then the action we want to take here is find opportunity, because firstly, we need to find the opportunity that already exists in our pipeline. So let's go ahead and do that. And then once it is found, we will then update it. And then I'm going to add a field. So firstly, we're going to select the pipeline. It's going to be the sales pipeline here. And then we're going to find the opportunity by the name. And here we will select the contact's name, because that is how we created the first opportunity itself. So this way we can find them. And you will see once I click on save action, it will automatically create a branch. So if the opportunity is found, that is great. Then we will just update the opportunity. So we'll choose this step, and here you will see that the duplicate opportunity is disabled by default. You can enable it if you want by heading over here, but for now we're going to keep things simple. So what we want to do is in the pipeline, which is sales pipeline, we're going to update the opportunities pipeline stage and move them to hot leads. And that is pretty much it. And if an opportunity is not found, you could either trigger an internal notification letting you know that this automation was not able to find the opportunity, or you could just go ahead and create the opportunity right away. So for that, you can click on create opportunity here, keep it in the sales pipeline, and then just add them to the hot leads because they would have responded to something and they were not found. But anyways, we can still create them under hot leads, and you will need to make sure that you still add the opportunity name here to the full name, which will be fetched from the form itself. Let's go ahead, click on save action, publish this and hit save. And that is pretty much it. Now the next workflow we have to create is for the appointment booking. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to click on create workflow. For this, we do have a recipe available. So if I go here and search for appointment one, which is recipe appointment confirmation plus reminder. So let's go ahead and select that, and it should build this out for us pretty soon. Okay, there we are. So you can see in this automation, we already have a trigger. So let's go ahead and get our filter set up. So I'll just go here and select the calendar to be chiropractic adjustments and initial screening. And then I'm going to select the status to be confirmed and then hit save trigger. And then you can see we already have the templates for confirmations and reminders. The only thing we have to ensure is that we do find the opportunity and then we update it. So I'm going to find the opportunity in our sales pipeline here. And then we're going to find that using the opportunity name, which is going to be the full name here. And if the opportunity is found, then of course we're going to update that. So we'll choose the update opportunity step here. And then we are going to update it in our sales pipeline to the stage called booked appointment, and then click on save action. And that is pretty much about this workflow. And lastly, just make sure it's published and saved. And go to appointment list view. I do have a few appointments here. Let me just take off the filter first and we should be able to see them. So let's say these appointments came in for the chiropractics and their staff member went in, and from this point, they will either select if the appointment showed or no showed. So if they do this and we want the appointment to move automatically inside the pipeline, then we will have to create a workflow for that. So let's go ahead and do that next. So I'm going to head over to automation again, and we're going to create our fourth workflow or automation. We can start this one from scratch, and I will call this handle appointment status. And here we are basically going to add the appointment trigger again. So we will select appointment status, and under filters, firstly, I'm going to choose the calendar, which is this one here again. And then we are going to select the status, which is going to be showed. So appointment status, I always like to label this here because it helps us see visually which trigger does what. So if I go ahead and click on save trigger, you can see the appointment status is showed. Now at this point, we could either create multiple automations to handle each type of status, like one for showed, one for no showed. And if you also want to handle cancellations, then that could be a different one too. But we could also take a smart approach and add all the triggers here and then filter them using conditions. So that is also one smart strategy you could use to bundle things inside of one automation. And it is also going to save us time. So what I'm going to do is create one more trigger for no shows. So we'll go ahead and select appointment status again, choose the calendar here, and now the status is going to be no show. And I will type that here so we can see in the labels which trigger is doing what. So we now have two different triggers. I'm going to hit save here, and now we will add a condition here. So we'll say if, we're going to name this to check trigger, and you will see the first one, I'm going to do it for showed. And here in the drop down, you have to select workflow trigger. So we will select that and hit yes, and then select showed because this is the trigger here that we're talking about. So if the lead came in from the first trigger, which is appointment showed, then it would go in the first branch. And then you could either add another branch, but we just have two things. So if this is not happening, then by default, it's always going to be the second one. So we could just go ahead like this and just rename the non-branch to no showed, and then hit save. And now you can see we have the branches here. So based on this, all we really have to do is find the opportunity again. This is a better way of doing this. So we'll just go ahead and quickly map the values, like the pipeline is going to be the sales pipeline. And then we are going to find the opportunity name using the contact's name. And if the opportunity is found, we will update the opportunity. And the only thing we want to do is select the pipeline, and then we are going to move them to showed up. That is all we really have to do. And if the opportunity is not found, you can follow the same principle we did for the last workflow, like either send an internal notification or just create the opportunity directly in the showed up stage. So now we don't really have to do this again here. I'll just go ahead and copy this, copy all actions from here, paste it here, and then here, the only thing we need to change is instead of moving them to showed up, you want to move them to no showed because this branch is handling that status. So that is really all we have to do. We'll go ahead, click on publish and hit save. And now we are able to handle the appointment statuses. So we have covered all the way from here to no showed, and we're only left with these two last things. So let's go ahead and take care of that. And I'm going to create this one from scratch, and we're going to call this bought a package. And the trigger for this one is going to be the invoice. So if I search for that, we should be able to see invoice status is paid, and that is all we have to do. So then we can just go ahead, find the opportunity in our sales pipeline. And if we do find the opportunity, we're going to update that. So we'll select this step and then select the pipeline here again. And then we can go ahead and just move them to bought a package. And then lastly, we're also going to add the opportunity value because at this point, they have paid us an amount. So we'll go ahead and make this dynamic first. And then if you click on this label thing, it will show up the invoice. So select that. Here, you can select the total amount. And that way, once they pay the amount that is inside of the invoice, it will dynamically populate that price here. So even though if the price changes in the future, if you change that in the invoice template, this will still say dynamic and you won't have to touch a thing. So let's go ahead and click on save action. And again, if the opportunity is not found, you could do the same thing that I was doing in the earlier workflows. Just create the opportunity directly into the package deal stage. So we're pretty much done with this workflow. We'll go ahead and publish this and hit save. And now we're only left with this last stage, which is sort of optional, but you could add it just to have a track of everything. So I'll go ahead and then create the last workflow here, start this one from scratch, and we'll call this disqualified lead. And what will happen is if a contact has a tag disqualify, which the staff could add if they find out while texting to the lead that they're not a good candidate for this treatment, then you could do this here, or you could also select a new trigger, which could be contact DND. So if a contact sends a message like stop or unsubscribe while they're receiving all those automated texts or emails, then they will automatically be put into DND mode, which is do not disturb. If the DND is enabled on all channels, you could also do this for specific channels if you want. But if it's enabled for all channels, then we will also just send that opportunity right into the lost stage because they are of no use to the business now. So last step, again, select the pipeline, select the sales pipeline here, and then select the contact's name here so we can easily find the opportunity. And in the sales pipeline, we are going to move them to the lost stage. If they are not found, again, you can create the opportunity directly into that stage. So that is all we had to do. We'll go ahead, publish, and hit save. And now we are pretty much done with everything so far. All right, so now it's finally time to test this whole thing. So I'm going to open our sales pipeline in one tab here, and then I'm going to take those actions to see how the lead flows through the pipeline. So let's go ahead and firstly submit the form. I had just created a very simple one here. So let me just go ahead and do that. And I'm going to add my email address here. And once this is submitted, let's go back to our pipeline. And there you go. You can see the opportunity is created under the new lead stage. And as part of our automation, I should have received an email for the next steps. So if I go here, you can see I've received the email for offer confirmation, and it has sent the link to the calendar as well. But before I go ahead and make an appointment, I'm going to reply to this saying something like, I have a question, or just write something like this and hit send. And now because I've replied to it, this opportunity should automatically move to the hot lead stage because we have that set up as part of our automations. So let's just wait for it for a few seconds. So you can see the opportunity moved itself to the hot leads. So it is working phenomenally well. And now if I go back and try to make the appointment, let's see what happens. So I'll go ahead, enter in my information, and then click on schedule meeting. And this should just take a few seconds. All right, so the appointment is booked. And now if we go back here to our pipeline we should see the lead move automatically to the booked appointment stage, because that is what we had set up as part of our automations. So I've also received the email right on my phone while that happens. So it is working perfectly well. And if we do a quick refresh, our opportunity should have moved to booked appointment, and there you go, it has moved successfully. It also shows the appointment date right here. So it means that it is working perfectly well. And to mark this appointment as showed or no showed, let's head over to calendars and appointment list view and find our appointment. So you can see the appointment is confirmed. Now let's say the appointment shows up. We'll click here, click update. This will just take a couple of seconds. And once that is done, we'll head back to opportunities here. And once it loads up, we should be able to see, okay, you can see it did move to the show it up stage. So it is working beautifully. And now let's say at this point, somebody is ready to pay for the package. So we can manually send them an invoice, or you could also create a workflow for it. So for instance, if I head over to automations, and if I create a new workflow, again, this is optional, but this is just an effort to enhance things further and automate them. So I'm going to call this one send invoice. And for the trigger, we should choose the pipeline state changed. And what we want to do is we will select the pipeline first, and then we will select the stage. So let's say if somebody has moved to show it up, we want to wait for, let's say, 5 minutes, and then we want to send them an invoice, because most probably somebody would be marking them as showed up once they've already left the clinic or the office. So you could choose the send invoice option here, and you can select the user, choose the template that we had already created. And for the payment mode, I'm going to use test for now because we want to do it without creating an actual payment. Then publish and save this. So now if we head back to our opportunities here, or the pipeline, and now because this automation is going to work on the showed up stage, and we already had this lead move over, so I'm just going to simulate this for now. So I'm going to go back one step, and then I'm going to manually drag this to showed up just to trigger that automation so we can test it. So if I head back to the automation here and go to this send invoice workflow, we can see that there's one lead added in the wait step. So that means that we are already added here. So I could just force myself to the next step instead of waiting 5 minutes in this video. So we can also use this option inside of HighLevel. It will essentially push this lead to this next step right here. And if I go to the execution logs, you can see that the invoice is already sent successfully. So I should have received the invoice. So let me just go ahead and open my email. Just got that on my phone. And this is what it looks like. So if I go ahead and click on view invoice, it should open that in a few seconds. And you can see I can go ahead and pay this right away. So I'll click on that, and you can see this is in test mode. So it would just allow me to input the test card here. So let me just go ahead and do that right now. And now if I go ahead and pay this and it goes through successfully, which it should since this is in test mode, then you will find the paid confirmation here. And if we head back to opportunities, we should have the lead in the bought a package. Beautiful. And you can see the amount has reflected here as well. So you can see how beautifully this works. And of course, once you have leads flowing in, this is going to save so much time and effort. And of course, this is also going to streamline things for this business. This business will now be able to see everything that is happening inside their business in a quick glance. And this is the most automated way to do it. And not only this, you can also see this information much more visually in the dashboard. So if you head over to the dashboard inside your account, you will be able to see all the sales pipeline data in a much more visual way. So you can see the value here. You can also see the stage distribution, and you can also see the funnel overview of the sales pipeline. So these are the things that can really optimize your business, how it works. And of course, if you are aware of all this data, it can lead to good decisions that can ultimately help you scale your business. So this was an in-depth video about how can you create sales pipelines for any business using HighLevel, and how can you fully automate this to help scale that business. I hope you found value in this. If you have any questions, feel free to pop them right below. This is Osama signing off. I'll see you in the next one.